What's happening, everybody? Thanks for dropping by on another episode of the Crash Bang Boom podcast with today's guest drummer, Adam Deitch. Adam has played, recorded, and is playing and/or touring with Lettuce, Break Science, the Adam Deitch Quartet, and many more, as well as the new record from Deitch, Teitle, and Fribush entitled Another Side of the Sound, which is killer and was recorded very spontaneously, apparently. Adam and I get into the roots of his musical family, going to Berkley and studying with Dave DiCenso, Lettuce's connection with New Orleans and some of his favorite New Orleans drummers, VHS drum and instructional videos, David Garibaldi, Idris Muhammad, playing with John Scofield and Average White Band, and believe it or not, a whole lot more. Lettuce is now on tour October 24th through November 8th, from Australia to Hawaii all the way to Japan, then back to the States. So check the link in the description for all of those dates and more. Crash Bang Boom podcast can be found on all podcast platforms, and if you like what you hear, please feel free to drop a positive review my way. Additional video clips of the interviews can be found on the Crash Bang Boom YouTube page, so check it out. And as always, thanks for the support. So without further ado, here we go. Adam Deitch, another interview many years in the making. Crash Bang Boom.
Crowds go mad with joy.
All right, I'm here with a guy that I've been wanting to talk to for a long time and someone that I've seen live many, many times throughout the years. Adam Deitch, what's happening,
going on?
dude?
Thanks for having me.
Absolutely, man. I'm glad again that we're finally catching up. I've seen Lettuce throughout the years. I've always been a fan of your playing, and just what I imagine started out as a wormhole of funk interest that it's evolved into like a portal into another universe with how good you are with it. So I've been a fan of everything from just the feel to the ghost notes, the dynamics, and everything in between, man.
Thank you so much. That means a lot.
Absolutely. With this new Lettuce record, Cook, where did y'all record it? Because the last couple of releases, I feel like the first few were maybe relatively cleaner sounding as opposed to the more recent ones, which maybe have a more dirty kind of vintage analog sound to me.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Interesting.
That's what they kind of sound like, or maybe even just what I've heard a little bit of Cook, and then an EP that y'all put out. I forget it. It had a black cover. I'm spacing on it, but I thought it had a kind of dirtier, dap tones, kind of vintagey kind of sound.
Yeah, we're pushing dirtier and dirtier and less mics and more analog and more tape distortion. We're still chasing that sound that a few of our peers already have, and they have their own home studios. They don't tour like we do, so they got more. I guess they have more time, and they all live in the same city, so they can have a studio and they develop it over a set of years. For us, we're just trying to make Colorado sound as dirty as possible, and the place has top-notch gear, but we're working hard to dirty it up and get that analog grit going on.
Where's the studio that y'all did most of the tracking, or did you track the drums separately in a different place?
No, we played live all together in the studio at this place called Colorado Sound.
Gotcha.
In Denver.
Nice. What was, then your experience playing drums, y'all just tried to isolate the drums as much as you could, and if there's bleed, there's bleed, but y'all are mostly in a room, baffled off.
Yeah, we're all in a room, and I have a drum booth in the room with windows. So
gotcha.
They're all in the room. The horns have a roped off thing.
Nice.
I have a booth, and guitar players usually in the room. Keys are in the room. And so we all kind of stage eyesight, we can all see each other. And our bass player likes to go between being in the room with the guitar player or going into the control room and playing directly into the board and hearing it coming out of the studio speakers. He likes that as well. So yeah, that's how we do it.
Nice. What's your bass player's name again? He's got great hair.
Yeah. He was going by Eric Jesus Coombs for a long time, but he's going by Maverick these days. That's his new name, Maverick Coombs. Yeah.
Very solid, very apropos for his whole aesthetic, I would say.
Yeah. He makes me sound great. He makes the band sound great, and he's a selfless human being and selfless bass player. And he just really, he fixes my groove. If I mess up or if he'll just find a way to make it sound good with his beautiful bass playing.
Yeah, he's killer, man. When I first heard about Lettuce, I ran into Adam, your guitarist. Is it Smirnoff?
Yeah, Schmeens. Yeah,
Schmeens, yeah. I ran into him at Cafe Brazil when Lettuce was first starting to go down there. It was pre-Katrina. I ended up in New York, which we'll touch on later in 2005 after Katrina. So this was, right around when that first record was probably coming out. And I ran into him and was just talking to him, said, hey, man, what are you doing here? And he said, yeah, I'm with this band, Lettuce. And that was the first time I heard of the band. Obviously the internet wasn't a thing. Social media.
What year was this?
Dude, it was like right when Liftoff came out.
That's out of here. Yeah,
out of here. That's what I meant. I said Liftoff. Yep. Out of here.
Same thing. That's a great album name. Liftoff. I like it.
There you go. But that's how I originally heard about y'all. When did Lettuce as a band first start going down to New Orleans?
The early 2000s. So Alive was our sister band. They were going down there a lot.
Yeah.
And my friend Eric Krasno, who we started the band with, he started to befriend all the Meters and the Sons of the Meters and the Dumpster Funk guys. And,
yeah.
He's was immediately friends with Ivan Neville and George Porter. And I ended up meeting Russell Batiste, who was the drummer in the Funky Meters.
Absolutely.
I met him through my Average White Band travels.
That's right.
Going down there early on in the early 2000s. So I knew a couple cats, Terrence Higgins, and
of course,
and then this whole Soul Live connection, and then they welcomed us with open arms. It was just such a vibe, and they brought us in, and between hanging out with drummers like Terrence Higgins and Russell Batiste, rest in peace.
Yeah.
Stanton was always hanging out, talking about drums and the history, and teaching me about Smokey Johnson and the guy that played with Eddie Bo. I'm spacing his name.
James
right
Black.
James Black. Stanton knows everything about their lives. He's one of those guys. So
totally.
Yeah, he was very helpful and kind of filling in the gaps for me. And I just really, I was welcomed. My whole squad was welcomed with open arms with the guys that we had worshipped our whole life. And, obviously I'm from New York. I grew up around New York drummers and great, amazing, from everyone was there, from Bill Stewart and, Ari Honig and Jeff Tain Watson. They were all in New York.
Yeah.
But the funk thing wasn't like super big. There were a lot of great R&B drummers and gospel drummers that I was digging in New York. And there were, there's obviously cats in every city. So I've been traveling my whole life. But the New Orleans thing was like drum heaven. It was like, these are where the best drummers are. And now you have, guys like Alvin Ford, who plays with everybody. He's like in 10 different touring acts right now.
Yeah.
I don't know how he does all that himself.
Yeah.
But Alfred Jordan is another young lion out there killing it. Devin Trusclair, who is another killer. So there's just so many guys that welcome me with open arms. Terrence Houston, who plays with George Porter. It's just too many to name. I'm always going to forget. Eddie Christmas. It's just like 25 drummers down there that are just up there with my top drummers on earth.
Yeah, that's interesting. I was thinking about that sort of what from my perspective was, and I think I have to attribute it a little bit to galactic touring and maybe putting some sort of eyes back on New Orleans. And then taking sort of what they were doing and their influences and them sort of incorporating themselves with some of the jam band scenes and hitting Colorado and stuff. I think they brought, again, some attention back to New Orleans, which then brought more bands, especially around Jazz Fest time, and then it became more of a year-round thing. But I kind of attribute it to Galactic getting out and touring because historically New Orleans bands they weren't really touring, especially like what we would generally consider New Orleans music, whether it's brass bands or funk bands.
Well, I know George Porter has been touring a long ass time.
Yeah.
He had the Funky Meters going after the Meters kind of went like awry with whatever they were going through, and he's like I'm not stopping. So George Porter is out there he's our Jerry Garcia. Like if you're a funk fan, he's the guy, the godly figure of New Orleans funk and of funk of the world.
No doubt.
So he's been doing it a long time, but Galactic rose to such heights with, playing Bonnaroo and touring nationally since the 90s. Like they definitely popularized this style of music and brought a lot of people to that scene. They're trailblazers, just, like Soul Live kind of brought the jazz funk thing and Carl Denson's Tiny Universe and Great Boy All Stars, and
absolutely.
Yeah, Zach Nader, one of my favorite drummers.
Dude, how good is that guy?
So great. We talk almost every day, and like we have like a funny rivalry. Like
he's so
calls
good.
me kid.
Yeah. It's funny. I met him outside of the Maple Leaf one night, and I saw the Great Boy All Stars. Only saw him once with Zach playing drums, and I was so curious about it because I loved A Town Called Earth, and I think West Coast Boogaloo was the other one that they did, and I just thought Zach's playing was so good. And I saw him in the streets. I said, "Hey man, dude, just a big fan. Like, what's going on? What are you thinking about doing?" And he's with a straight face. He goes, "I'm thinking about not really playing. I'm taking a break from drums, and I'm going to study the Bible." And I go, "Get the fuck out of here." He was serious.
Yeah. He really did it. He really just wanted to get back to the church and be in a church environment. And God bless him. Like he's back playing drums.
Good.
He did KDTU after that. Like, hey man, do what you need to do to keep your spirit healthy. I know people that go like live out in the woods for a couple of years. Like my friend Jeff, he plays with Thievery Corporation. And he moved to like 2 hours outside of Denver in the middle of nowhere, because he wants to be like, have this isolated mountain feeling, whatever it takes to keep your head right. The road is tough. And like Zach started touring with Great Boy when he was 18.
Yeah.
Or maybe younger, so he needed that break. So God bless him.
Yeah. I was kind of a fan of some of the more outlier bands-ish that were coming through New Orleans around that sort of wave that we're talking about, maybe the late 90s, early 2000s. One was Critters Buggin' with Matt Chamberlain on drums, and as was Medeski Martin.
I just got to pause.
Yeah.
I'm on the ferry going to London. Wearing my Zildjian jacket because it's warm, because it was cold outside. And I see this guy, and I'm like, he looks familiar. And it was freaking Matt Chamberlain.
Really?
And I'm like, he goes, Matt Chamberlain, Deitch. I'm like, Matt, and we hugged and we shook hands. Just like a quick, just a passing. You don't get to see Matt Chamberlain that often. He's like a studio guy.
Yeah.
But he was out with Diana Krall or something.
Okay.
I think doing some jazz gigs or whatever, touring Europe, doing a quick Euro tour,
Yeah.
And it was just great to see him. So yeah, go ahead.
I was going to say, man, I saw them when they first came through New Orleans, pretty much on their first tour, on their first record, and they played at Tipitina's, and I went to go see another band, and Critters Buggin' just happened to be on that bill, and I didn't know who Matt Chamberlain was, but I was sitting there, standing in the audience going, who the fuck is this guy?
Yeah.
I couldn't believe it. And then to realize that he's this master studio musician. And from my perspective, I was just watching this dude kill live and then be like, wow, he's got this whole other side. Whoa.
Yeah.
Wow, that guy.
I never saw him with Critters Buggin'. I think Skerrick, because I played a band Dark Wave with Skerrick.
Yeah.
And I obsessed over Matt, and I wanted him to show. I think he showed me some videos of Matt back in the day.
Yeah.
Are you a Seattle guy?
No, I'm not. I just happen to know those guys from coming through New Orleans.
Wow, amazing. So cool.
Yeah. Another one was Medeski Martin and Wood. I would see them, and I remember I saw them one night with Critters Buggin'. Critters Buggin' opened for them, and then Medeski went on, and I probably saw them 4 or 5 times. That was my favorite gig. I thought they sounded super focused and knew they had to kill, because Critters Buggin' came out and just laid waste to the whole audience. And they came out, and I tell you what, man, Billy Martin is another guy that has a really interesting feel and kind of elastic, sort of bizarre kind of approach that totally worked within the chemistry of that trio.
Yeah, he has a jazz touch.
Yes.
With a hip hop mind.
Yes.
And a studier of cultures from outside of America.
Yes.
And the music. And from South America, he's been all over Brazil. He's been all over Jamaica. He's been all over these amazing places, searching for drums and making drums, and what an interesting, genius human being, and so glad to call him a friend at this point.
Absolutely, man. You mentioned some drummers earlier, Russell Batiste. I was going to ask you about a couple other New Orleans drummers. You also mentioned Terrence Higgins in there, which I'm glad you mentioned him because he is so incredible. I've been watching him since I feel like I was a little kid and was always blown away by his playing, seeing him with Dirty Dozen.
Absolutely. And he's so cool. And he always took care of me a lot, made sure I felt comfortable in New Orleans and took me around. And he's just a great human being. He's also a producer. He makes his own music, and he has all these like beats he's playing me where he's chopping up guitars and like Leo Nosatelli samples and making beats. Like, I love the way he plays. He's in Government Mule now. And And I saw him with Government Mule, and I was blown away. It's a must see. Everyone's got to go see Government Mule.
Really?
And props, much love to Matt Apps as well.
Yeah.
He built the gig and made it his own. And built the thing,
yeah.
built the ship. But what Terrence is doing now is really funky, and he's bringing that New Orleans thing to Warren's thing, and it's gorgeous.
Nice. There's also one of the older guys that I know I've spoken to Stanton about as being a big influence was Idris Muhammad. We mentioned James Black earlier, but
Idris
is one of those guys too that just had a pretty crazy touch, especially on that John Scofield record, who you also played with, John Scofield, that is.
Yeah.
What are your thoughts on Idris's playing?
Yeah, I studied him my whole life. I knew him honestly because I was obsessed with 90s hip hop. So, around 91, everyone was sampling Idris, and I had to go, look up the samples, and found Crab Apple and all those cool albums that he did in the 70s. Idris has a lot of solo records, like
a lot,
and they're all funky and killing. Some are more on the disco side towards the late 70s.
Correct.
But like most of them are incredible, and you type in on who sampled Idris Muhammad. So I knew him as like this drummer that all the producers love making hip hop records out of.
Right.
And then I heard him on the Scofield record, and I was blown away. So I'm like a diehard fan. I went to a drum clinic once that he was doing in New Orleans a couple years before he passed, and everyone wanted me to ask a question. And I asked something about Nautilus or like the groove. Can you demonstrate, or what was the idea behind the groove on Nautilus? And what I didn't know is that he kind of went through a lot with like Steve Gadd, and a lot of New York guys copped his style and kind of took over the New York studio scene after he was already the god of it for a while, So we had a little resentment, and I asked the question, and then he goes, "Where are you from?" And I went, "New York." He goes, "You're going to steal my shit and take it up to New York and make all that money, huh?"
Oh, God. I'm not surprised at all because
the place erupted. The place erupted in laughter, and it was like people that were there, people heard about it. Idris, my homie forever. It was incredible. And yes, I have the Adam Deitch Quartet, which is completely based off the way he plays. And I'm not getting rich off it, but yes, I have records out, and yes, he was right.
That's funny. Well, I mean, also, I think by most accounts, anyone that came across him would probably also agree that he could be a real grumpy, cantankerous son of a bitch. So
I can't. I mean, I don't. Sco never said anything bad about him. He said he was cool. They were cool.
Right.
He just, he has that New Orleans he don't care. He's gonna say what he's gonna say.
Yeah.
But he got me, and he totally clowned me in front of an entire drum clinic worth of people in New Orleans. It was great.
That's funny, man. I was thinking about some other drummers that just growing up down there and seeing like all that music. One of the guys that I didn't even really know about the Neville Brothers, but I used to go see Willie Green play.
Willie Green, man. Beast.
He was a beast, and what's funny is I saw him playing with the Klezmer All-Stars, so he's ripping this left-handed player, big old bug eyes sitting in the back, just drilling those Klezmer beats. And that was the first time that I saw Willie Green. I was like, again, similar to Matt Chamberlain, I didn't know Willie Green. I just see him playing with this Klezmer band. He's the one black dude in the band. I'm going, who the fuck is this guy? Yet again, And it was
playing open-handed. He plays open-handed, right?
Yeah.
And he, first time we met, he shook my hand, and I thought my hand was going to be dust. He was like, "How you doing?" But we became friends, man. We used to hang, and he knows I know how deep that pocket is and how incredible he is. And once we establish that, we're cool. We hang out at Frenchie's Art Gallery and shit.
Nice. I ended up running into Jonathan Freelick, the main composer in the Klezmer All-Stars later in an airport. And I go, dude, the first time I saw y'all was on Mardi Gras night at Cafe Brazil, and it was the Klezmer All-Stars, and it was such an amazing show. And he goes, dude, everyone in the band was on acid that night. I was like, what? Really? The whole band? God damn.
That's funny. That's funny.
There you go. A wild New Orleans Mardi Gras night on Frenchman Street. Yeah.
Yeah. Shout out to Willie Green. Mean Willie Green.
You got it, dude. Growing up in New York, man, I know you are an especially interesting case study because both your mother and father drummers, correct?
Correct. And my great uncle, my father's uncle, was a professional drummer in the 1930s and 40s, was the drummer in the Paul Whiteman Big Band.
Okay.
And he toured the country, if not maybe even outside of the country. And he worked on 7th Avenue South, 5 nights a week for years in the city, doing vaudeville and like backing comedians and dancers and all that stuff. And
wow.
So yeah, total pro, like not like had a drum set in the basement and played in a garage band, like a professional drummer. And he also led his own band and played piano and wrote the arrangements. It was called the Dave Abrams Band.
Okay.
Dave Abrams and the Nutcrackers, it was called.
Okay.
And there's like a 78 somewhere, but it broke and we're trying to find it. So anyone else knows about the Dave Abrams and the Nutcrackers out there, and you could find a recording, please digitize it and send it to me.
There you go. I like it, man. And one thing I was going to ask you is because before moving to New York, I had a kit in my house that I was able to play all the time. Like with you growing up in New York, where were you playing your kit? Like where were you playing?
I did not own a drum set till I was 18, till I went to Berkley.
No shit.
So I just played. I had multiple kits in the house. It looked like turn around. That's what. That's what my basement looked like. It wasn't a giant basement and there was no AC.
Right.
But it was a basement with 2 drum sets and a rug and my dad's TIAC 4-track recorder.
Yeah.
A couple weird synthesizers that I could practice making beats on and sequencing on.
Wow.
A double cassette deck that I could record tape to tape and plug a mic into and record my drums. So it was like a fun little room that I had my whole life with my mom's kit or my dad's kit. And I just make mishmashes of both and try mom's snare or dad's cymbals with mom's hi-hats and whatever,
Yeah.
So it wasn't until I went to Berkeley, I was like, oh, I think I'm going to need my own drums.
Wow. Dude, yeah. What kit did your dad have and what kit did your mom have?
They had like I don't know. I thought it was an old Gretsch. They had a Gretsch snare.
Okay.
But apparently it was like a Japanese wannabe Gretsch or something. And then they bought these Yamaha black stage customs that were like thin and light, kind of like the perfect gigging club date kit.
Yeah.
So they played on those and then my dad got given some fibes, clear fibes.
Nice.
From his friend Eric, the sax player, Eric Lawrence. Yeah. And so I played those fibes for years and they kind of got me into drums. They were loud and fun and they projected a lot. And I was like, oh, these are cool. And I tried to bring those on tour with Scofield for my first tour. And he was like, you're not playing fibes. Billy played fibes. You're not coming into my band 30 years later and playing fibes,
Really? Damn.
Yeah. He was like, I want you to play an 18, 12 and 14 and figure out your sound on that. And I was like,
all right.
Okay.
Damn.
Boss.
Yeah.
Sounds good.
Wow. All right. Nice. And those smaller dimensions and ultimately at times higher tunings, more jazzier sounds, if you will, they do make you think differently, play differently, compose everything differently. So that was his challenge to you to try to fit in sort of with that kind of drum paradigm he was kind of imagining.
And he's really was listening to Billy Martin. He had just done the Mineski Martin and Wood. He was checking out, Alan Evans from Soul Live, who also plays an 18. Mm-hmm. And he was checking out Bill Stewart because he was doing funky New Orleans stuff with Bill Stewart and with Idris Muhammad around the same time. So he was like, if you could just take those guys and then add your Dennis thing and your Clyde Stubblefield thing to that and your Zigaboo thing to that, then we got the drummer I need, that, and I figured that out over the course of 3 years with him. But part of being on a gig is finding out the drummers that your boss likes, you're
not wrong,
unless you want to do your own thing, go out and do your own play, your weird style. I get it. But if you're working for somebody, especially a prominent artist or a singer you respect or a guitar player, ask them, who do you like?
Yeah.
What records of that person do you like? Like, and I'm just that kind of person. So I just did a lot of asking, and we got deep into like, why he loves Billy and how it's never standard drum fusion stuff. Like he didn't want another fusion drummer.
Right.
He did fusion. He did all that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Interesting, man. You mentioned Average White Band earlier, and doing that, and I mean, is it? I never know. Is it Steve Ferrone or Steve Ferroni?
Steve Ferroni, I believe.
Okay, whatever. It could go either way.
I'm gonna go Ferroni.
Ferroni, right on.
Yeah.
Incredible pocket on that guy from Average White Band all the way to Tom Petty, everything in between.
Yeah, and their original drummer who played on Pick Up the Pieces.
He's great.
Actually, Robbie McIntosh.
Okay, that's right. I think that's his name. I think you're right.
McIntyre? No, Ani McIntyre and Robbie McIntosh.
Okay, there you go.
Ani's a guitar player.
Gotcha.
Shout out to the Average White Band guys. Yeah, they both those guys I listened to everything. It's hard to find the Average White Band first record before Pick Up the Pieces. And there's a song called The Juggler, if you could look that up. It's really rare. It was only released in London. And I don't even know if it's on Spotify, honestly.
Okay.
But you type in Average White Band, The Juggler, that's their first record. And that's Robbie tearing it up. He comes from the Scottish pipe bands. So he already had this like Scottish snare drum funk marching stuff that he brought to the funk, and like checked out James Brown and the soul stuff and brought that in. So yeah, they went to a party and some wild stuff went down and he didn't make it out of the party.
Right.
So yeah, it's pretty crazy.
Damn.
But and then Ferroni, came in and just made it his own, and they knew each other, and so he knew the style, he knew the drummer they were digging, and he could just do his thing, and so Ferroni's become like a mentor. We talked a few times, and he saw me play with Average White Band in 2003 and yelled at me for not playing his parts exactly. He didn't yell. To his credit, he didn't yell. He very quietly said, "Those aren't the parts that I recorded."
Wow. Yeah.
Yeah. He sat me down. He said, "Good show.
And by the way,
I put those parts are on those records for a reason. Please play them."
Shit, man. I think I remember you saying that in an interview that I read. I was going to ask about it. I'm glad you mentioned it, man.
Yeah, it's a good one. It's a shout out to Steve Ferroni for checking me, because I was trying to do my LA thing. My homies were in there. I really wanted to be playing with like Dr. Dre or Wu-Tang Clan at that time, and playing with a band that was popular in the 70s, in the early 2000s. Right. I was just trying to do my thing with it, and like kind of modernize it a little bit. And Steve was like, "No."
Damn, that's crazy. Wow.
Yeah,
you mentioned Berkley earlier. What's your connection with Dave DiCenso? I've interviewed him. He's an incredible drummer. There's footage out there, if people that are listening to this, viewing this, haven't seen it, of him when he had long hair playing with, what was it, 2-ton shoe?
2-ton shoe.
Yeah, I watched that and I'm like, well, shit.
I saw that live. I had a band called Fatbag in college, and we were doing really well. We were selling out venues all over, and then we had 2-ton shoe on the bill because I was studying with Dave, because I was in school, and so I got Dave out, and we did a double gig, and he tore it down. He was like that Dave, and
God.
It just blew us all away, and he saved my career because I was having wrist troubles and knee troubles, and I was sitting wrong, and he's like, "Oh, you're not facing the bass drum with your leg, and your knee is kind of bent a little bit," and you're like, he just saved my career. And I was limping off the kit every night.
Yeah.
Because I was playing wrong. I was facing the hi-hat instead of straight forward.
Right.
So he saved, and he knows that, and he taught me how to solo and to get a flow going, whether triplets or 30 seconds, without it being licks. Like everyone else was showing me licks, like right, left, kick, right, left, kick,
right.
Great. He was like, take this thing and now go all over the kit and express and get creative and improv with it. So he kind of like was like, oh, this, an easier, more open way to solo, as opposed to this lick, that lick, that lick, that lick.
Yeah,
which is kind of how everyone solos.
Well, everyone teaches that way. Everything, at least on Instagram and social media, it's all lick based.
Yeah, it's lick based, and he doesn't have a lick because it's so open to what he's feeling at the time. He has like some stickings,
Sure.
but they go everywhere. They go
Yeah.
everywhere, And yeah, he's just one of my favorite teachers of all time,
Yeah.
for sure.
I mean, you have to have a foundational vocabulary in which to expand upon, and that's crucial. Obviously, he has an exceptional vocabulary to where
Exceptional.
he
Yeah.
can flow any which way he wants. There's really no thought about it. When he's in flow mode, which appears to be instantaneous.
It's pretty instantaneous that he's in flow mode. And like I would put him in a room with 3 drum sets with Dennis and Vinny at any time. And,
Absolutely.
And they would probably go, "Oh my God, what was that?"
He's literally that good.
He's one of them. He's one of them.
He's one of them. Yeah. I'm jealous that you were able to study with that guy.
I was so lucky. I heard him. I knocked on the door. I thought Dennis was there for the day, like practicing in a practice room. And it was like Dave's lesson room. And out walks this heavy metal looking dude, And I was just like, "Oh my God, you sound like Dennis Chambers and Vinny and Weckl all in one." And he's like, "Come on in." We just hung out and that was it. That was the beginning of me doing 1 or 2 semesters with him. Changed my life. Yeah.
Damn, man. Yeah,
I know.
Still
friends. Yeah.
That's amazing, man. He's a great guy. Are there any rock bands that you listen to occasionally? I feel like you're so immersed in the kind of like funk hip hop feel and world.
Yeah, I was
like
curious. Living Color. I like
there
Living
you go.
Color.
Will Calhoun.
I really played along with their albums, especially the live one.
Yeah.
Back in the day, they had a live record, and I learned everything Will Calhoun played.
Yeah.
I was into 24/7 Spies. It was some more like
another great one,
funky black rock shit that wasn't that. Everyone was into Motley Crue and the hair bands, and
right.
My friends were going to Slayer, Metallica shows, and I was like, I'm into this other stuff, And they 24/7 Spies did a cover of Jungle Boogie by Kool and the Gang, and it was all rocked out.
That's right.
But funky, and it was like, I was like, this is what I'm talking about. And it had like a rap vibe, like rock rap. I was into the Band of Gypsies heavy.
Absolutely.
Super drummer Band of Gypsies. But
it was Billy Cox and Buddy Miles.
Buddy Miles.
Buddy Miles.
Brain. I got to meet Buddy Miles. I got to hang with Buddy Miles at a festival. What a sweetheart. How is he not the best rock drummer of all time in any poll? I don't know. Maybe because they only did 1 record,
right.
But he's got a lot of solo records, great voice, singing drummer, musical person. Mm-hmm. Proves that drummers are more than drummers. And and he rocked the hell out on that Band of Gypsies record. And if all that weird shit didn't go down with Jimmy dying, they would have been making tons of more records.
Certainly seems like it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So that. As far as rock, I got into Zeppelin here and there through hip hop stuff, like Rhymin' and Stealin' by the Beastie Boys and shit like that.
Sure.
And I was like, "Oh, that drum sounds cool. Who's that?" And then I found out he was a diehard James Brown fan.
Right.
And all he would wear these giant headphones and on tour and just listen to James Brown all day.
Yeah.
So like I that made me like really into that. And I just recently watched the Zeppelin Becoming Led Zeppelin documentary. It's great.
Yeah.
I highly recommend that.
Absolutely.
For any drummer. And I met his son. So I think he's definitely the greatest of all the English rock drummers.
Yeah.
The
no
funkiest.
Yeah.
By far.
Crazy feel, crazy big, open, bombastic, like somehow loose feel juxtaposed with John Paul Jones' incredible bass playing.
Incredible.
That was a rhythm section. You got to give it to them both on that one.
Absolutely, man. They're a team. And Jimmy Page's pocket's incredible.
Oh, ridiculous.
Writing and style. So
unbelievable.
They made some of the funkiest rock that ever existed.
Nice, dude. We talked a little bit about sort of soloing and grooving. I guess where you're at now, what would you say percentage wise when you just sit down to a kit? Do you find yourself mostly soloing, or do you mostly do that on the gig, sort of improvising, or are you mostly just recording and kind of just thinking about playing grooves for the most part?
I try to work on it all, man. I got the kit right behind me, and it's over here. And I'm just like, sometimes I'll sit down. honestly, I'll be scrolling on Instagram and I'll see some cat doing some wild thing. Or,
Yeah.
I have like a whole saves of like, learn these licks,
Of course.
and, so like I'll go down and I'll try and I'll like, oh, what if I start with the left? Or what if I, do it on the floor tom, so
Right.
it'll spark something. I'll come down and go crazy for 30-second notes out. And then I'll end up tiring out, getting some of those zoomies out, you
Uh-huh.
know, and then go back and groove. Then okay, this groove is cool. This could be a Lettuce tune. Hit record, get my Pro Tools hooked up,
Yeah.
put the groove down, pull my bass out, fumble around, find a couple loops I like, pull up an organ sound, come up with the keyboard part, Rhodes part, and that kind of thing. So the shedding leads into writing, but it might start with a total chops blast. I call that zoomies, get the zoomies out after dinner or whatever,
Right. I realize you said, I know you're in Denver now. I wanted to ask you why Denver? Because when I lived in Greenpoint, I used to see you walking your dog. I'd see you occasionally, like in Williamsburg Park and stuff. And I'm like, that's obviously Deitch right there. I remember you had a really funny looking dog that maybe had some weird teeth.
He had bottom teeth like this.
Yes. Crazy looking.
Like he was doing the rock and roll sign, like all that.
Yeah. Why Denver, man?
I was doing so well in Denver. Lettuce started doing Red Rocks around 2012, 13, 14, around there. We were selling out shows. My management team was out here. My agents were out here. So many good things. The weather's better.
Yeah.
My friends from the Motet kind of like established like this can be a funky place. They throw Herbie Hancock parties and
right.
And they love all the old school funk stuff. And so they kind of welcomed us with open arms. The Club Cervantes is like, hey, whatever you want to do here, we'll fly anyone you want to play without. Well, they were kind of like, come on, it was just like a musically, where New York is kind of like, never even knew I left,
Yeah. I've known you to like do producer work and work, like you said, kind of, it's interesting that you're a multi-instrumentalist and you can kind of compose a general idea based off of drum beats and all that. How do you feel sort of working on the recording side of it or, the producing side of it? How has that informed your drumming?
I mean, it was one and the same because my dad's a drummer. My mom's a drummer as well, but she doesn't like create songs and record. Like my dad's like really into recording, recording the drums and then recording the bass and recording the keys and singing the tune. And, so I watched him do that my whole life since I was 2 years old, since I was old enough to know what he was doing.
Wow.
He was in the basement, like, making his own records, like a self-contained Billy Joel type guy,
wow.
Really influenced by the Beatles and Stevie Wonder and all this other stuff. And so I just was like, recording drums, sometimes he'd go down and we would just battle and he would do all his crossover licks again, drum battle. And then I would watch him record songs for hours and he would, get like 3 or 4 done in a week. And, and then it was the days where you couldn't upload it to the internet. So he was like trying to get record deals and trying to get the stuff out. And it was so hard,
Right.
And now he's putting out his own music and people are starting to hear it and go, this is great,
That's cool.
So I always saw him doing that. So I do the same. I patterned my studio after when I grew up in his studio. And, it's partly a place to practice and partly a place to record all the musical ideas that I sing into my phone, little bass lines and little horn lines and whatever, and I take that and, I have a computer, I have a setup upstairs also where I'm working on, I have another drum set and 2 mics and a piano and another MIDI setup so I can work upstairs too in case wherever the idea presents itself, So that's important. So that's how I write for like Lettuce and Break Science, Adam Deitch Quartet, Butterfly Quintet, all the stuff I got going on.
Yeah. The trio record that I mentioned earlier, I know the names are other than yours. I'm going to let you take the lead on that, but I dig the record. Again, great sounding record.
Thank you.
Yeah. What is the name of it? Who are the 3 guys involved other than yourself?
Teitle, he's the guitar player in Dumpster Funk.
Gotcha.
He's kind of what I call Tony Hall's project.
Okay.
Tony Hall found him. He's Ari's from Detroit. he already had some funky OGs in Detroit. So when he moved to New Orleans, Tony Hall heard him or found him. I don't know what the story is, but he took him under his wing. And when Tony takes you under your wing, under his wing, it's major,
Yeah.
And he made him learn all these tunes, and Tony plays bass and guitar, and so told him the right voicings for everything. And like Tony's just an encyclopedia of funk and soul. And
Nice.
he trained Ari to the point where he said, "You're now a dumpster funk kid," And
Wow.
so I'm like, wow, like Tony's new project is killing these days,
Yeah.
But he's way past that. He's now a well-known cat.
Yeah.
But I saw him on the come up, and I've been following him for like 10 years,
Right.
And then, Sam, I've been seeing on Instagram or playing like Chester Thompson, the organist from Tower Power, not Chester the Great drummer.
Right, exactly.
And I was like, this guy's got the thing, and he's not really a jazz guy. Like a lot of organ players are like more, they're more like, jazz cats, like Jimmy Smith cats that can play a little bit like Chester. But, Sam is more like a funky Tower of Power type organ player, much like how Nigel is also.
Gotcha.
So, they just said they wanted to make a record. I said, let's do it. Then Ari like booked the session at Colorado Sound. I suggested that studio.
Uh-huh.
And we didn't have any tunes. I'd never heard the tunes till we recorded. We had no rehearsal. We had never played before as a trio. I had just heard of the cats,
Damn.
And we just got in, and like I was like, okay, what tune we got? What's first, y'all? Ari's like, yeah, it goes like this. He played it for me on the guitar. Cut it once. It was like, okay, let's do it one more time. Cut it twice. Next. And we just did that for 12 tunes or whatever, 10 tunes.
Damn.
And I brought in one or two, and Sam brought in some covers, Poison and the other one. He wrote some cool tunes. So yeah, it flowed super easy, and they're pros,
Wow. I didn't realize that it was that spontaneous, because
that's spontaneous. Yeah.
That's crazy. That's good that you were in a laxed environment. I mean, I feel like if you're looking over your shoulder, like whose clock are we on? Who's fucking counting the hours, the minutes, this, that? Like, if you could just be devoid of that and be like, man, we're just vibe. We're going to record some cool shit. Like, it's not to take the pressure out of it, and then y'all can actually just do what you do. That's awesome.
There was no pressure at all. I mean, maybe there was some pressure on Ari's side because he was paying for the studio time. But
all right, you have to ask him that question then.
Yeah, but I guess he just knew it, man. He'd been checking out Lettuce for a long time, and we knew we vibed as humans, but we just hadn't played yet. And I recommend every drummer out there, 2 or 3 guys or women or whatever that you sound good with, that you think you might sound good with.
Mm-hmm.
Try it. Go record. Set up. It costs $500 to go in a studio for a day, for a couple hours. Go in and record something, see what happens. It might be the best record. I'm getting more props for this record than I've gotten on like the past 10 Lettuce records. It's weird. And it's just like, it's just really organic feeling. And it's a lot of air, a lot of space.
Totally.
And, I just went in there to play really light and let the drums speak and kind of have a Scofield tuned, slightly open kit. I call it Scofield, Idris tuned.
There you go.
Kind of vibe, Scofield recommended.
Yeah, exactly.
So I just approached it like that, and I'm amazed to see so much love. And shout out to those guys for just being consummate professionals and proving the point that you don't have to have ever played with cats to make a great record.
Right. Oh man, that's super cool. And what's the name of the record itself?
Another Side of the Sound.
There it is. Okay. Yeah. For anybody who hadn't checked that out, definitely got to check it out. Well, we talked about like what led you to Denver. One of the things that I was going to ask you is like, but you already answered it. I was going to say, you have your solo records, the varying formations with that, and then you have Lettuce. What do you feel sort of each one gives you or provides you that's maybe different from the other?
Yeah, I just want to be like Art Blakey, Roy Haynes, and like Idris, and I want a bunch of records. I want to have and like Lettuce is doing this one record a year thing, and that's cool. some of the guys want to do 2 a year. Some of them want to release all our shows. I want to do as many records as possible. I think that's records are its weight in gold to me. Like, it's not about making money. It's about having these statements, these musical statements out that show people you're not a one-trick pony and you don't just do one thing. I have an entire odd time fusion record with Nigel that I wrote all these odd time, like proggy fusion, like weird Billy Cobham-esque era fusion tunes. Nigel played all the instruments, bass, guitar, keyboards, like 15 keyboards on each track, and I played drums on it. So like,
when is that coming out?
We got to do it. He's like mad that I haven't like gotten it mastered yet and mixed and everything. I got to do all that.
Oh, damn.
There's a little confusion on where those files are right now.
Oh, shit.
Yeah, it was a 2020, like, thrown together record.
Yeah.
And I recorded it myself, and I probably should have had an engineer.
Yeah.
I'm going to figure it out.
Okay.
It'll come out, and people are not going to realize it's us because we're not known for that,
Totally.
But when I was with Wyclef, I was playing reggae for 3 years, one drop at dance hall and like all that stuff.
Right.
So so I just like to do records and show what they all, how much I love different styles of drumming and I bring all that back to Lettuce. I bring all of those influences and all that energy that I receive from these great musicians that I'm playing with at different situations, and bring that back to Lettuce to make Lettuce grow and not just be stagnant, just my college boys and we just play how we play.
Right.
Nah, we all want to grow. We all want to get better. We want the band to. We haven't peaked yet. We're a young band. We're a young band.
Yeah. I know that for a while you were a Tama guy. Are you still doing Tama? Or?
I've been Tama has been taking care of me since my first gig at NAMM with Scofield, in 2003 or something, and they were just the sweetest, nicest people. I've been into Japan and everyone's bowing and they're just courteous, and we're coming out with the Adam Deitch custom snare drum.
Nice.
Which I've worked on tirelessly for 2 years, toured with the prototypes. Yeah, like everyone's blowing up my DMs. What snare is that? What snare is that? It's they're just the best, and their hardware is the best also, and people don't talk about that enough. You have one set of their hardware and it'll last forever.
Yeah.
Nothing loosens up. Everything works great. I need that. I'm a touring guy. I don't need things that are loosening up and weird, So, shout out to Tama, Zildjian, Vic Firth. I've been with Vic Firth for a few years now.
Nice.
Wow. The AJ1s are my stick of dreams. I really love those sticks. And Tama, Zildjian, Vader, Evans are another, shout out to Aaron over at Evans, like the nicest guy in the drum industry. Used to be my guy at Tama.
Okay.
Now he's over at Evans. And they're all my endorsers are my friends and my homies, and they throw the best parties. Tama throws Zildjian throws amazing events.
Yeah.
Tama throws great events. There's no way I'm on the cover of Modern Drummer in 2000 without those guys and the relationship and the friendships. Like I still don't think I deserved it. I don't think I have done anything really to deserve the cover of anything. But because those guys were so cool, and it just worked out that way, and I'm thankful. So it's more, endorsements are bigger than just getting free shit.
Sure.
Grow with these people, get to know them, and create relationships.
Absolutely. Well, you answered one of my questions I was going to ask you, because you've had a pretty specific snare sound throughout the years with Lettuce, and specifically, I was going to say it almost sounds like it could be like a little bit of a cranked superphonic, but maybe brass almost, or something like that. I couldn't quite figure it out.
Yeah.
I've got a bunch of brass snares. I'm a brass snare guy, but
superphonic was the was the snare that all my favorite drummers played on in the 70s.
Yeah, absolutely.
You see Purdy playing them, you see Clyde playing them, you see Zig playing them, and so that that was just a thing, and if you study that drum and what makes it great, and and then add a few things like, what we're doing with this Deitch custom model. It's cracking, man.
I bet.
I put some little fun things together. See, I don't know if I'm supposed to drop all the details about it, but
all right.
Let's just say, out of the box, you will never hear a snare this funky and without having to put anything on it to mute it or anything.
Gotcha. Oh boy, I'm interested, man. I'm a total snare collector, and I've been digging your snare sound. So you piqued my interest, man.
I had to wait a few years to get it right, and I'm stoked that people are going to get to play this thing.
Super, super cool, man. Before we go, Deitch Academy. I mentioned earlier your focus on grooves, and I dig from what I've seen, posts and this and that and the other. There's definitely an emphasis on learning classic grooves and a lot of stuff like that. Was that sort of the impetus for starting it in the first place, to kind of provide a different thing? We talked about how most drummers are talking about stickings and licks, and I feel like here you are, like the oddball, talking about grooves.
I'm talking about grooves. There wasn't enough of that. The funkiest cats that groove, you ask them, what's up with that groove? They're like, I don't know, man.
Yeah, absolutely.
Like, I was hanging out with Clyde Stubblefield because I was on tour with Scofield, and he came to sound check, and I'm like, Clyde, how did you keep the 16 notes going for the whole funky drum? I don't know, man.
Oh, man.
He was just laughing and so I was just like, man, I got to talk about this, at least from my perspective, how to play it. Break it down, play it slowly, speed it up,
right.
That's what helps me when Dave Garibaldi gave me a lesson when I was 12.
Amazing.
He played grooves slow. I made him play his stuff slowly.
Right.
And I recorded it on my little tape recorder.
Okay.
And I had him playing Soul Vaccination, What Is Hip?
Nice.
Oakland Stroke.
Yeah.
At like 50 BPM.
Wow.
And that was before you could slow down YouTube and all that.
Yeah.
Which is now what I do on YouTube. I go to I slow it down. What's going on here? I used to have to do it frame by frame on the VCR with
absolutely.
Dennis Chambers. Yeah. So I just decided, and I love DCI. I grew up watching DCI. So
hell yeah.
Yeah, I don't really have a modern Instagram format for Deitch Academy. It's more like a bunch of DCI videos.
Yeah.
And shout out to Dennis and Omar, Hakeem, and Weckl,
Dave,
who I watched a lot.
Garibaldi, yeah.
Yeah, I watched Garibaldi's videos, and I really got into them. And that's we didn't have YouTube growing up.
Exactly.
That's all we had was our VCR and these couple videos that we had that we studied.
Yeah.
And so I'm kind of approaching my site like that. I have beginner, I got intermediate, I got advanced. So if you're like just starting, get with the beginner. It's like how to hold the stick, how to play a basic, stuff. If you're like sick of that, you go to intermediate. If you're you want to get some crazy chops, I got that in the advanced part, or like how to play Garibaldi stuff, or Mike Clark stuff, or how to get into that left hand Clyde stuff that he does, with gaga, exercises based on strengthening that.
Those ghost notes, yeah.
Yeah, the foot technique. So I get into it all, and, sometimes I think I'm doing it for nothing, but then I'll be on tour and Italian guy will be like, yo, man, you have to put up some new videos. I learned them all. I got them all. And I'm like, okay, cool. I got to keep this going.
Oh, damn.
Yeah. So I love hearing feedback from it. And, I just hit up some guy that's going to help me. I never studied marketing. I'm learning marketing late in the game.
That's a whole thing, man.
It's a whole thing. We're drummers, but I'm sure it's very important to what we both do.
I know.
And in my late 40s, you know what? It's kind of like, it can be fun. I don't know.
If you say so.
Shout out to my managers for helping out with all that, and Hillary and Eva and Ivory, and they do a great job with regime management, with making sure all my ducks are in a row and everything's getting put out at the right times and the website's working and all those things. I recommend people that are multifaceted businessmen and tour. If you're touring and you're trying to run a business, it might be time to get a manager to help you with some stuff. Someone you trust on the ground that's up at 8 a.m, kind of handling those things.
Yeah, 100%. Going back to David Garibaldi for a second, I'd studied with some guys in New Orleans and kind of went through sort of Afro-Cuban styles of drumming and the independence associated with that stuff. And then I kind of got when I got out of school, I was like, well, that's cool that I studied that. I don't really know what to do with it. And I got David Garibaldi's Tower of Groove, I think, VHS tape. And I saw the way that he sort of synthesized sort of the independence with some of those rhythms into funk grooves, and it was a total revelation. I was like, oh my God, had I not seen this, I would have never pieced this together, that this was even a thing. Because he's got all this weird linear shit that he can do within funk grooves and still make a groove that sounds a lot like me to some of the Afro-Cuban and Latin stuff, sort of independence-wise that I was learning. But he synthesized that for me, and that was a total revelation for me.
Absolutely, man. He got me into inverted paradiddles. Right, left, right, left, right, left. Which is different from doing a paradiddle. It sounds cooler when you play a groove. So I started doing that. Then I started messing around with other patterns. And luckily, my teacher, Frank Marino, who was a killing fusion drummer from New York.
Nice.
I had him from 12 to 14, and he was into all these like Garibaldi things. And he's the reason Garibaldi did a clinic at my Long Island Drum Center in Nyack, New York.
Nice.
So that's how I got to meet him. So I really studied and he showed me that Soul Vaccination is samba originally.
Okay.
So, and he played it like that. And I was like, okay, so you're taking Brazilian stuff, and then you're switching around what was on the bass drum now is on the hi-hat. You're literally remixing beats from Cuba and Brazil and repurposing it for your band. That's like allowing you to not play 2 and 4.
Right.
Like it's just incredible, his whole story. And shout out to Dave. We become friends. He's like an uncle at this point. Yeah. Him and Mike Clark I love those guys so much.
Both of those guys, such incredible players. One last thing. There was an interview. I've been reading your interviews throughout the years. Correct me if I'm wrong. Did you, if I'm misquoting you, I feel like at some point you said James Brown was chordal and the meters were linear. Did I make that up?
I mean,
it sounds like something you would say.
You could break it down either way.
Yeah.
I would say Tower of Power is linear. James Brown's the inventor. Like he's the god, like the and who was the other?
The meters.
The meters slowed it down and put it in some grease.
Yeah. I think John Medeski said James Brown's God, but the meters are the Bible.
I like that. Yeah. The meters like took it, he had a lot of fast grooves, James, Cold Sweat and
of course.
And then the meters were like, well, it's too hot down here to be playing all that fast stuff, no one had put that greasy swang. And trust me, James heard that stuff and was like, woohoo, they were contemporaries because the meters came out in 64, 5,
right.
And James wasn't even really digging into deep funk yet,
right.
Like he had done some funk with Cold Sweat, but yeah, they're right there with him. They're on Mount Rushmore, and they're the originators, and that's I'm just trying to honor their legacy, and honor the whole scheme of Black music and African music and Brazilian music and how it applies to what I'm doing today, and the more lights I can shine on drummers and musicians that have influenced me and have personally helped me, that I'm just going to continue to do that.
So
check out. And my Instagram is Deitch Adam, and I'm posting a lot of drummers, a lot of stuff I dig, a lot of artists I dig, and musicians. So, join me on Deitch Adam on Instagram.
There you go, dude. Look at you marketing yourself. Oh, shit.
Hey, I'm marketing, man.
Right on. Well, Adam, it was great catching up with you, man. Appreciate the time. Glad to finally catch up. Best of luck for the rest of 2025 and into 2026.
Right on. You're going to be in New Orleans in April?
I don't know. It's a little ways away. We go back. I'm like south of Atlanta now. But we're back down there to see family and
cool. Okay. We're playing with the Atlanta Symphony, Lettuce. We just got that just came in.
That's crazy.
Yeah. So yeah, you should come to that one. Come hang, hit me up.
Okay, we'll do.
All right.
Right on, dude. All right, everybody. Thanks for tuning in, and thanks to Adam for catching up. Great to talk to him and pick his brain on his drumming journey. Definitely a fan of him and always down to check out whatever it is he's getting into. We'll catch y'all around the bend. Crash, bang, boom, baby.